The Syndicate was the most feared organization in the known galaxy. For 300 cycles, their assassins had moved through space stations, colony worlds, and diplomatic vessels like ghosts. They killed without sound. They vanished without trace. No target had ever survived once the Syndicate accepted a contract. This perfect record was their greatest pride and their most powerful advertisement. High Counselor Al sat in his private chamber on the capital world of the Galactic Assembly. He was of a species known for their blue-gray skin, 4 eyes, and complete lack of moral concern for other beings. He had ruled his sector for 60 cycles through fear, bribery, and carefully placed deaths. Now he faced a new problem, a human problem. The trade negotiations between Earth and the system threatened everything Al had built. If humans gained access to the rare minerals on Seven, his monopoly would end. His wealth would shrink. His power would fade. He had tried diplomatic pressure. He had tried economic threats. Nothing worked. The humans simply smiled and continued talking. That smile haunted him. It was unnatural, wrong. When Al threatened other species, they showed fear. They backed down, but humans just smiled wider and asked if he wanted more coffee. So he contacted the Syndicate. The contract was simple: kill Ambassador, make it look like an accident or a random attack. The payment was generous enough to fund a small war. The Syndicate accepted without hesitation. Humans were new to the galactic stage, soft, weak, easy prey. They assigned their best operative to the task. Eth was born on a world of endless oceans and crushing pressures. Her species had evolved without bones, their bodies a complex system of muscles and cartilage that could squeeze through spaces no other being could manage. She stood 7 feet tall when she wanted to, but could compress herself to the size of a small container. Her 4 arms ended in delicate fingers capable of surgery or strangulation with equal skill. She had killed 47 targets across 12 different species. Politicians, generals, crime lords, scientists. Each death was clean, professional, and untraceable. The Syndicate considered her their finest asset. When she received the briefing on her new target, she almost laughed. The human ambassador was unremarkable in every way. Male, middle-aged by human standards, no military training, no combat augmentations, no personal shield generator or defensive systems. He spent his evenings reading poetry and drinking a clear liquid the humans called soju. He had no guards in his personal quarters, relying instead on the station's general security. This would be the easiest kill of her career. Eth traveled to orbital station 7 hidden in a cargo shipment. She spent 3 days studying the station's layout, security patterns, and the ambassador's daily routine. She mapped every ventilation shaft, every maintenance tunnel, every blind spot in the camera coverage. The human was predictable. He woke at the same time each day. He ate the same meals. He returned to his quarters at the same hour each night. On the 4th night, she made her move. The station's night cycle began at 2200 hours. By 300, most beings were asleep. Security patrols moved in predictable patterns, their routes unchanged for months. Eth slipped into the ventilation system and began her silent journey through the metal corridors. Her body produced no heat signature. Her movements made no sound. She had coated her skin with a chemical compound that masked her scent from even the most sensitive detectors. She was invisible in every way that mattered. The ambassador's quarters were on the diplomatic level, a section of the station reserved for visiting officials. The rooms were larger here, the corridors wider, the security lighter. After all, who would attack a diplomat on a neutral station? Eth found the ventilation access point above the ambassador's bedroom. She extended a thin sensory tendril through the grate, scanning the room below. The bed was empty. Strange. According to her surveillance, the human should be asleep by now. She widened her scan. The main living area showed a single heat signature, the human, sitting in a chair by the viewport. He was awake, alone, staring at the stars. This complicated nothing. Eth had killed alert targets before. A sleeping victim was convenient but not necessary. She would simply need to be faster, more precise. One strike to the throat with her neurotoxin blade. The human would be dead before he could scream. She opened the grate without sound and flowed down from the ceiling like liquid shadow. Her body reformed as she descended, 4 arms spreading wide, blade extending from its hidden sheath in her primary right hand. The toxin on its edge could kill in seconds. A human would die even faster. The room was dark except for the dim glow of distant stars through the viewport. The human sat motionless in his chair, his back to her. She could see the vulnerable curve of his neck, the slow rise and fall of his breathing. He suspected nothing. She took one silent step forward, then another, 5 meters, 4, 3. "I wondered when you would arrive." The voice was calm, conversational. The human did not turn around. Eth froze. This was impossible. No species had ever detected her approach. Her training screamed at her to strike now, while she still had surprise on her side. But something held her back, something in the human's tone. He was not afraid. "The chair across from me is quite comfortable," the human continued. "Would you like to sit before we begin?" Eth's secondary hearts began to beat faster. This was wrong. Everything about this was wrong. The human should be panicking. He should be calling for help. He should be running for the door. Instead, he sat there like a host greeting an expected guest. "You knew I was coming," she said. Her voice was a whisper of displaced air. "I knew someone was coming. The only question was when." The human finally turned his head, and Eth saw his face for the first time. It was unremarkable, brown eyes, dark hair, lines around the mouth that suggested frequent smiling. But those eyes held something she had never seen in any of her previous targets. They held patience. "High Counselor Al has been trying to stop these negotiations for months," the human said. "When his political pressure failed, I expected he would try something more direct. Your syndicate has an excellent reputation. I'm honored he spent so much on my death." "You should be afraid," Eth said. The blade in her hand felt suddenly heavy. The human smiled. It was a small expression, just a slight curve of his lips, but it transformed his entire face. In that moment, he did not look like prey. He looked like something else entirely. "Perhaps," he said, "but fear has never been particularly useful to my species. We find it gets in the way of thinking clearly." He gestured to the empty chair. "Please, sit. I promise this conversation will be more interesting than my death." Eth had killed 47 targets. She had faced soldiers, warriors, beings armed with weapons that could destroy starships. None of them had ever invited her to sit down. None of them had ever smiled. She did not sit. Instead, she raised her blade and lunged forward, all 4 arms moving in a coordinated strike that had ended dozens of lives. The neurotoxin gleamed in the starlight. The human remained in his chair, still smiling as death came for him. And then something impossible happened. He moved. The blade should have pierced his throat. Eth had calculated the distance, the angle, the speed required. She had made this exact strike hundreds of times in training and dozens of times on real targets. The human's position was perfect. His body was relaxed. There was no way he could move fast enough to avoid her attack. But he did. His body shifted at an angle that made no biological sense. He did not dodge backward or sideways like any normal prey. Instead, he seemed to fold around her strike, his torso twisting in a way that should have been impossible for a species with rigid bones. Her blade passed through empty air where his neck had been a fraction of a second before. Eth did not pause to wonder. She struck again with her second arm, then her third, then her fourth. Each attack was faster than the last. Each attack was aimed at a different vital point: throat, heart, spine, kidney. The neurotoxin blade sang through the air in patterns that had killed soldiers in powered armor. The human avoided every single one. He was not faster than her. That was the strangest part. Eth could see his movements clearly, could track the slow rotation of his shoulders, the careful placement of his feet. By standards, he was moving at a crawl. but somehow, impossibly, he was never where her blade expected him to be. It was like trying to catch smoke. After her 12th strike passed through nothing, Eth stopped. She was breathing hard now, her body burning energy at a dangerous rate. The human stood 3 meters away, not even winded. He had not counterattacked once. He had not called for help. He had simply moved again and again, making her attacks look clumsy and wild. Then he smiled. It was not a threat display. Eth had studied human expressions during her briefing. She knew about the baring of teeth, the way primates showed dominance or aggression. This was different. This smile was warm, gentle, almost kind. It terrified her. "Your species has excellent pattern recognition," the human said. His voice remained calm, as if they were discussing the weather rather than her attempt to kill him. "You have studied human physiology, reaction times, muscle density, nerve conduction speeds. You know exactly how fast we can move and how hard we can strike." He walked slowly back to his chair and sat down. The movement was casual, relaxed, as if he had forgotten she was holding a poisoned blade. "What you do not know," he continued, "is that humans are aware of their own limitations. We have spent 10,000 years developing ways to compensate for them." He gestured to the empty chair again. "We call it martial arts, strategy, psychology, the art of being somewhere else when the attack arrives." Eth's grip on her blade tightened. "You cannot avoid me forever. I am faster, stronger. I have 4 arms, you have 2. "All true," the human nodded. "But you have been trained to kill targets who fight back in predictable ways, targets who try to block your strikes or overpower you. I am not trying to do either of those things. I am simply not being where you expect me to be. This is a trick, some human technology, a personal shield or a holographic decoy." The human laughed. It was a genuine sound, full of warmth and humor. Eth had never heard anything like it from a target before. "No technology," he said, "just practice, a lot of practice." He leaned back in his chair. "My name is, by the way, I realize we have not been properly introduced." "I do not need to know your name. You are a target, nothing more." "Am I?" Tilted his head slightly, studying her with those patient brown eyes. "Your syndicate took a contract on me. That means someone wants me dead badly enough to pay your rather extraordinary fees. Have you asked yourself why a simple diplomat warrants such attention?" Eth had wondered. The briefing had said nothing about why the human needed to die, only that the payment was guaranteed and the target was soft. She had assumed it was political, some trade dispute or territorial conflict, the usual reasons beings killed each other. "The do not ask questions," she said. "We fulfill contracts." "Of course, professional distance, I understand," nodded again. "But surely you have noticed something strange about this situation. You are one of the finest assassins in the galaxy. You have killed 47 targets without failure. And yet here I am, a soft, weak human with no weapons and no guards, still breathing." He leaned forward slightly. "Does that not make you curious?" Eth felt something she had not experienced in years. Uncertainty. Her training had prepared her for every possible scenario. Targets who fought, targets who fled, targets who begged, targets who offered bribes. She had protocols for each response. She had no protocol for a target who wanted to talk. "You are trying to delay," she said, "waiting for security to arrive, or some hidden weapon to charge. The security patrols will not reach this corridor for another 40 minutes. I have no hidden weapons, and I disabled the emergency alert system in my quarters 3 days ago." Spread his hands. "I am completely alone, completely unarmed, and completely aware that you could try to kill me again at any moment. Then why are you not afraid?" The question escaped before Eth could stop it. She cursed herself for showing weakness, for letting the human see her confusion, but only smiled that strange, warm smile again. "Fear is useful for avoiding danger," he said, "but I am not avoiding anything. I am exactly where I want to be, talking to exactly the person I want to talk to." "You wanted me to come." "I wanted someone to come. The syndicate sending their best was a pleasant surprise. He stood slowly, moving to a small cabinet near the viewport. "Would you like something to drink? I have water, tea, and something from my called soju. It is quite strong." Eth watched him pour 2 glasses of clear liquid. His back was to her. His neck was exposed. She could cross the distance in less than a second. The blade was still in her hand. She did not move. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you want an assassin to come to your quarters?" Turned back to face her, a glass in each hand. "Because I wanted to meet you, Eth of the Syndicate. Born on Prime, trained from childhood, responsible for some of the cleanest kills in galactic history." Her secondary heart stopped for a moment. "How do you know my name?" "I know many things. I know that you send half your payment to your family on Prime. I know that you have a younger sister who wants to become a doctor. I know that you have killed 47 beings, but you have never killed a child or an innocent bystander. You have standards, principles." He held out one of the glasses to her. "I know that you are not a monster, Eth. You are a professional, and professionals can always be negotiated with." Eth looked at the glass. The liquid inside was clear, catching the dim starlight. She could smell something sharp and strong rising from it. The human was offering her a drink, as if they were friends, as if she had not just tried to kill him 12 times. "You are insane," she said. Smile widened. "That is what the last 3 assassins said." "The last 3? You are not the first person sent to kill me, Eth. You are simply the first one skilled enough to reach my quarters." He set the glass down on the table between them. "The others were stopped by station security. I had hoped for a more interesting conversation." Eth stared at him. The human stood there, completely relaxed, offering her alcohol after dodging her attacks with impossible grace. Nothing in her training had prepared her for this. Nothing in her entire life had prepared her for this. "What do you want?" she asked finally. Sat back down in his chair, cradling his glass. "I want to tell you a story," he said. "A story about humans, about why we smile when we should be afraid, and about why you, Eth of the Syndicate, are going to walk out of this room alive." He took a sip of his drink. "But only if you want to hear it." Eth did not sit. She kept her blade ready, her body positioned for a quick strike or a quick retreat, but she did not attack. Something had shifted in the room, some invisible balance that she could not name. The human had turned a simple assassination into something else entirely. "Speak," she said, "but know that words will not save you. When you finish, I will complete my contract." Nodded as if this was perfectly reasonable. "Fair enough. I ask only that you listen with an open mind." He took another sip of his drink and set the glass aside. "Tell me, Eth, what do you know about human history?" "Enough. You are a young species. You discovered faster-than-light travel only 2 centuries ago. Before that, you were confined to a single planet." She circled him slowly, keeping her distance. "You have no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor. You are slow by galactic standards. Weak. Your only notable trait is endurance, the ability to keep moving long after other species would collapse." "All correct. We are, by every measure, one of the least impressive species in the galaxy." Watched her circle without any sign of fear. "And yet here we are, negotiating trade agreements with the system while beings like High Counselor Al spend fortunes trying to stop us. Does that not seem strange to you?" "Politics is complicated. The weak sometimes gain advantages through alliances." "True, but humans have no major allies yet. We are too new, too unknown. The other species watch us with curiosity but keep their distance." He paused. "So how have we survived? How has a species of soft, slow, weak creatures managed to spread across the stars in just 200 years? Eth had wondered about this herself. The humans were everywhere now. Trading posts, research stations, colony worlds. They appeared in the most unexpected places, setting up businesses and making friends with species that should have eaten them. It made no sense. "Tell me," she said. Leaned forward in his chair. We survived because we learned something very early in our history, something that took other species millions of years to discover. His brown eyes met hers. We learned that the universe is trying to kill us. Every moment of every day, something is trying to end our existence. Disease, predators, weather, each other, the cold emptiness of space. He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Other species evolved to fit their environments. They became boneless to survive crushing ocean depths. They developed multiple eyes to track predators on their home world. Each species adapted to the specific threats they faced. He turned back to face her. Humans took a different path. We did not adapt to our environment. We adapted to everything. That is not possible. Evolution does not work that way. Biological evolution, no, but humans discovered something else, cultural evolution. The ability to pass knowledge from one generation to the next, building on what came before. Returned to his chair. 10,000 years ago, my ancestors lived in caves and feared the dark. Today, I stand on a space station, negotiating with beings from 100 different worlds. That is not biological change. That is the accumulation of learning. Eth considered this. The syndicate was ancient, but their methods had changed little over the centuries. They killed the same way their founders had killed. They used newer weapons, faster ships, but the basic approach remained the same. She had never questioned this before. You are saying humans change faster than other species. We change constantly. It is our greatest strength and our greatest weakness. Picked up his glass again, but did not drink. When we encounter a problem, we do not wait for evolution to solve it. We think, we experiment, we fail, we try again, and eventually we find a solution. Like your martial arts, your ability to dodge my attacks. Exactly. Thousands of years ago, humans fought each other with hands and feet. We were terrible at it. Slow, clumsy, easy to injure, so we studied. We analyzed. We developed techniques that turned our weaknesses into strengths. He smiled. A human cannot match it in raw speed, but a human can predict where an attack will land and simply not be there when it arrives. Pattern recognition. Pattern recognition, he nodded. Your species sees patterns in movement and uses them to track prey. My species sees patterns in everything: combat, politics, economics, relationships. We cannot help it. Our brains are wired to find patterns and exploit them. Eth thought about her approach to this mission. The 3 days of surveillance, the careful mapping of security routes, the timing of her infiltration. She had followed patterns too, the patterns of her training, the patterns of previous missions. The human had studied those patterns and prepared for them. You predicted what I would do. I predicted what someone with your training would do. The syndicate has an excellent reputation, but your methods are documented. Your previous kills have been analyzed by intelligence agencies across the galaxy. I simply read the reports and prepared accordingly. You cannot prepare for everything. No, but I can prepare for the most likely scenarios, and I can adapt when something unexpected happens. Set down his glass. That is what your briefing did not tell you, Eth. Humans are not dangerous because we are strong or fast or clever. We are dangerous because we never stop adapting. We never stop learning. Every failure teaches us something. Every defeat makes us better. He smiled again, that strange warm expression that made Eth's instincts scream warnings. Your species has a saying, what does not kill you makes you stronger. We have a similar saying, but ours is different. We say, what does not kill you teaches you how to kill it next time. Eth felt a chill run through her body. She had killed warriors, soldiers, beings who had trained their entire lives for combat. None of them had frightened her. But this human, sitting calmly in his chair with no weapon and no protection, was starting to terrify her. You are trying to frighten me, she said, to make me hesitate. I am trying to educate you. There is a difference. Stood again and walked toward her slowly. She raised her blade in warning, but he stopped at a safe distance. When a human smiles at death, it is not madness. It is not denial. It is acceptance. We know we might die. We have made peace with that possibility. And that freedom from fear allows us to think clearly in moments when other species would panic. No species is truly free from fear. It is a survival instinct. Fear is a survival instinct for prey. For predators, it is a weakness. His eyes locked with hers. Humans spent millions of years as prey. We were hunted by everything larger than us. We should have died out long ago, food for faster and stronger creatures. But we survived because we learned to turn our fear into something else. Into what? Smile faded. For the first time, Eth saw something serious in his expression, something old and dangerous. Anger, he said quietly. Determination. The absolute refusal to accept death on anyone else's terms. When a human smiles at an assassin, it means they have already accepted the worst possible outcome. They are no longer afraid of dying. They are only thinking about how to take their enemy with them. He stepped closer. Eth's blade trembled slightly. I do not want to kill you, Eth, but if you force me to choose between my death and yours, I will choose yours, and I will smile the entire time, not because I enjoy killing, but because fear will not cloud my judgment when I do. The room was silent except for the soft hum of the station's life support systems. Eth stood frozen, her blade extended, her body ready to strike, but something had changed. The human was no longer prey. He had never been prey. What do you want from me? She asked finally. Serious expression softened back into that warm smile. I want to show you something. Something that will change everything you think you know about humans, about the galaxy, and about yourself. He walked back to his chair and sat down. But first, I need you to make a choice. You can attack me again and we can see who survives. Or you can put down your blade, sit in that chair, and listen to what I have to say. He gestured to the empty seat. The choice is yours, Eth. What will it be? Eth stood motionless for a long moment. Her training demanded that she complete the contract. The syndicate had never failed. Their reputation, their very existence, depended on absolute reliability. A failed assassination would shame her family, and mark her for punishment by the syndicate's elders. But something had shifted inside her. The human's words echoed in her mind, mixing with her own doubts and questions. She had killed 47 targets without hesitation. She had never questioned a contract before. Why was she questioning this one? The answer was simple. None of her previous targets had treated her like this. They had begged, fought, threatened, or offered bribes. They had acted like prey. This human acted like an equal, like someone worth talking to. Slowly, carefully, Eth lowered her blade. She did not put it away, she was not that foolish, but she let it drop to her side. Then she walked to the empty chair and sat down. Smile widened. Thank you. Do not thank me yet. I have not decided to spare you. I am simply curious. Curiosity is enough for now. He picked up the glass he had poured for her earlier and held it out. Soju. It is traditional to share a drink when having an important conversation. Eth took the glass. The liquid smelled sharp and sweet, unlike anything she had encountered before. She took a small sip and felt it burn down her throat. It was not unpleasant. Strong, she said. Humans like strong things, strong drinks, strong emotions, strong connections. Raised his own glass. We are a dramatic species. I have noticed. Eth set her glass on the small table between them. Now tell me what you wanted to show me. What revelation is worth risking your life? His expression became serious again. He leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes fixed on hers. High Counselor Al hired you to kill me. Do you know why? The trade negotiations. He wants them to fail. Yes, but do you know why he wants them to fail? What he is really protecting? Eth had not thought about this. They did not ask questions. They did not care about politics or economics. They simply fulfilled contracts. But now, sitting across from this strange human who had dodged her attacks and offered her alcohol, she found herself wanting to know. Tell me. Nodded. Al controls the only known source of certain rare minerals in this sector. These minerals are essential for advanced medical technology, treatments that can cure diseases, repair damaged organs, extend lifespans. He has been selling them at enormous prices for decades, making himself incredibly wealthy while beings across the galaxy suffer and die. This is known. Many powerful beings profit from the suffering of others. True, but humans discovered something during our exploration of the system, another source of those minerals, a larger source. If the trade negotiations succeed, the price of those minerals will drop by 90%. Treatments that currently cost fortunes will become affordable. Millions of beings will be able to access medicine that was previously beyond their reach. Eth felt something stir in her chest. Her younger sister wanted to be a doctor. She had spoken often about the frustration of watching patients die because their families could not afford treatment. If what the human said was true. Al hired you to kill me because I threaten his profits, continued. He does not care about the lives that could be saved. He cares only about his wealth and power. The syndicate accepted this contract without knowing what it really meant. They will be paid with money that was earned by letting sick beings die. The syndicate does not concern itself with such matters. I know, but you do. Eyes softened. You send money to your family. You have never killed a child or an innocent bystander. You have principles, standards. You are not mindless killer. You are a professional with a code. Said nothing. The human's words were hitting too close to truths she had buried for years. I have a proposal for you, said. Something that will benefit both of us. You want me to spare your life? Yes, but I am offering something in return. Something more valuable than the syndicate's payment. What could you possibly offer me? Smiled a future. He stood and walked to the viewport, gesturing for her to join him. After a moment of hesitation, she did. They stood side by side, looking out at the stars. The syndicate is dying, said quietly. Your elders refuse to see it, but the signs are everywhere. Fewer contracts each cycle. More competition from younger organizations. Your best operatives are aging out without replacements. In a decade, maybe two, the syndicate will be a memory. You do not know that. I do. Humans have studied your organization carefully. We study everything carefully. It is our nature. He turned to face her. When the syndicate falls, what will happen to you, to your family, to your sister who dreams of becoming a doctor? Eth's grip tightened on her blade. Is that a threat? No, it is a question and an opportunity. Took a step back, giving her space. Earth does not need assassins. We have our own security forces, our own ways of dealing with threats. But we do need something else. We need intelligence operatives. People who can move unseen, gather information, and help us understand the complex politics of this galaxy. You want me to spy for you? I want you to work for us, legitimately, with a salary, protection for your family, and access to resources the syndicate could never provide. He paused, including free medical education for any family members who want it. The words hit Eth like a physical blow. Free medical education. Could become a doctor without bankrupting their family. She could have the life she dreamed of. Why? Eth asked. Her voice was barely a whisper. Why would you offer this to someone who came here to kill you? His expression became gentle, almost sad. Because I have read your file, Eth, all of it. The training you endured as a child. The missions you completed. The money you send home every month without keeping anything for yourself. I know what kind of person you are beneath the assassin's mask. He reached out slowly and touched her arm. She flinched but did not pull away. You are not evil. You are trapped. The syndicate gave you no choice but to become a killer, but I am offering you a different path, a chance to use your skills for something meaningful, something that might actually make the galaxy a better place. Eth felt tears forming in her eyes. She had not cried in years. Assassins did not cry, but something about this human's kindness was breaking through walls she had built since childhood. If I refuse your offer, she said, will you let me leave? Yes. And if I still try to kill you? smiled. Then we will discover which one of us is better at adapting. They stood in silence for a long moment. Outside the viewport, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere among them was Prime, where Eth's family waited for her to come home. Somewhere else was Earth, the strange planet that produced beings who smiled at death and offered jobs to their assassins. "The Syndicate will not accept failure," she said finally. "If I walk away from this contract, they will send someone else, someone who might succeed." "I know, but I have plans for that as well," walked back to his chair and sat down. "If you agree to work with us, we can protect you and your family. We can create a cover story that explains your failed mission without shamming you, and we can begin building something new together." What cover story could possibly explain this? Smile became mischievous. Something almost playful entered his eyes. "You will tell them that the human ambassador was more dangerous than anticipated, that he had hidden defenses, secret weapons, unknown abilities. You will tell them that you fought bravely but were forced to retreat." He spread his hands. "All of this is technically true. You simply will not mention the conversation we had afterward." Eth almost laughed. It was absurd. The entire situation was absurd, and yet somehow it made a strange kind of sense. "You are asking me to betray everything I have known," she said. "I am asking you to survive," replied, "and to help others survive as well. That is what humans do, Eth. We find ways to live, we adapt, we change, and we bring others with us when we can." He held out his hand, a human gesture of agreement, she knew. "What do you say?" Eth stared at the human's extended hand. In her culture, physical contact between strangers was rare and meaningful. Among the touching someone was an act of trust, a sign that you did not consider them a threat. The Syndicate had trained her to avoid such contact. Touch was for targets, for the moment before death. But this human offered his hand freely, openly, with that strange smile still on his face. He was asking her to trust him, to change everything she had been for most of her life, to become something new. The silence stretched between them. Outside the viewport, a cargo ship drifted past, its lights blinking in the darkness. Somewhere on the station, security guards walked their predictable routes. The galaxy continued its ancient dance of commerce and conflict, unaware that in this small room something important was happening. Finally, Eth reached out with one of her 4 hands and grasped fingers. His skin was warm. Humans ran hotter than most species, she knew. His grip was gentle but firm. "I accept," she said, "but I have conditions." "Name them." "My family must be protected immediately, before the Syndicate learns of my failure. They have agents everywhere." Nodded. "Already arranged. A transport ship is waiting at the Prime Orbital Station. Your parents and sister will be aboard within 6 hours, heading to a human colony where they will be safe. Your sister's medical education will begin next month." Eth felt her secondary heart skip. "You planned this, before I even agreed." "I hoped you would agree, so I prepared for that possibility." He released her hand and walked to his desk, pulling out a small data chip. "This contains your new identity, travel documents, and instructions for contacting us when you reach Earth. You will officially be a refugee from the deep, a cover that will explain your presence in human space without raising suspicion." She took the chip, feeling its weight in her palm. Such a small thing to represent such an enormous change. "What about Al?" she asked. "He will not stop trying to sabotage the negotiations. He will send more assassins." "High Counselor Al will have other concerns very soon." Smile became something colder, sharper. For a moment, Eth glimpsed the predator beneath the diplomat's mask. "I have spent 6 months gathering evidence of his corruption, his crimes, his violations of Galactic Assembly law. Tomorrow morning, that evidence will be delivered to every member of the Council and every major news organization in the sector. He will be destroyed. He will be arrested, tried, probably imprisoned for the rest of his very long life." His expression softened again. "I told you, Eth, Humans do not survive by destroying our enemies. We survive by making them irrelevant. She looked at him with new understanding. This man had known she was coming. He had prepared not just to survive the assassination, but to use it as part of a larger plan. The contract on his life, the evidence against Al, the job offer, all of it was connected. All of it was planned. "You are more dangerous than your briefing suggested," she said. "Most humans are. That is something the galaxy has not yet learned." He gestured toward the door. "You should leave soon. The security patrols will shift in 20 minutes, and you will want to be off the station before anyone notices you were here." Eth nodded and moved toward the ventilation access point she had used to enter. Then she stopped and turned back. "Why?" she asked. "You could have let the station security stop me. You could have had guards waiting in your room. Why did you face me alone? Why take the risk?" Was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "Because I wanted to give you a choice," he said finally. "If security had captured you, you would have been imprisoned or killed. The syndicate would have disowned you. Your family would have suffered. You would have had no options, no control over your own fate." He walked toward her slowly, stopping at arm's length. "I believe that everyone deserves choices, Eth. Even assassins, perhaps especially assassins. Your syndicate took away your choices when you were a child. They made you into a weapon and pointed you at targets without ever asking what you wanted." His voice became gentle. "I wanted to give you the chance to decide for yourself what kind of being you want to be." Eth felt the tears threatening to return. She forced them back through pure will. "You are a strange species," she said. "Yes, we get that a lot," extended his hand again, and this time Eth shook it without hesitation. "Welcome to the team, Agent Eth. I look forward to working with you." She climbed back into the ventilation shaft, her body compressing easily to fit the narrow space. Before she disappeared into the darkness, she looked back one more time. "Ambassador." "Yes." "The smile, when I first attacked you, were you really not afraid?" Laughed softly. "I was terrified. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. My hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed at me to run." "Then why did you smile?" "Because fear was not going to help me survive, and because I had learned something very important a long time ago." He met her eyes one final time. "A smile is not about feeling happy, Eth. It is about choosing how you face the world. It is about refusing to let circumstances control your spirit. It is about saying, no matter what happens next, I will meet it on my own terms." He smiled again, that warm, impossible, infuriating smile. "That is the human secret. That is why we survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the cold emptiness of space. We smile because we choose to, and that choice makes all the difference." Eth nodded slowly. She did not fully understand, not yet, but she thought she was beginning to. "Goodbye, Ambassador." "Goodbye, Agent Eth, until we meet again." She slipped into the ventilation shaft and vanished into the darkness. Within an hour, she would be aboard a transport heading for human space. Within a day, her family would be safe. Within a month, she would begin training for her new role as an intelligence operative. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she practiced something she had not done in years, something that felt strange and unfamiliar on her face. She smiled. 3 years later, on a station orbiting a distant star, Ambassador would receive a message from an anonymous source. It contained a single image, a young woman in medical robes, standing proudly at her graduation ceremony. Behind her, barely visible in the crowd, was an older with 4 arms and a small, warm smile. The message had no text. It did not need any. Looked at the image for a long time. Then he smiled too, saved the file, and returned to his work. There were more negotiations to complete, more enemies to turn into allies, more lives to save. That was what humans did, after all. They survived, they adapted, and they brought others with them. One smile at a time.